right. Well, apparently both streams are running, and we'll find out whether or not they work or if it's going to keep glitching out or what's going on. Fucking technology. Okay. Um. Yeah. So, well, let's hope that it works better this time. We'll go ahead with one of those and one of those. Hey, Jay McHugh. Uh, hey, another JR. Oh, this is probably okay. Okay. um. Well, let's see if thank you. Um. Yeah, if you guys are able to, tap the screen, share the live out to your friends, would be greatly appreciated. Oh, damn, achieved the gift goal. Thank you, you guys. I actually had to stop the YouTube stream too because in order for me to get it fixed, I had to start it over. But I feel like doing the camera this way now, it's like laggy. Oh man, it's always fucking something, you guys. Yeah, this says that it's not using my CPU hardly at all, and it's still laggy and annoying, and I hate everything. And I wish I understood technology enough to make this all work. I did not know that in order to do debate streams, I would have to be a fucking tech wizard. Well, we'll see. Hopefully, it works just fine. Um, what was that? But hopefully, we can have some good conversations. Oh yeah, Tree. I got a different camera, and then I tried to make some changes and set some stuff up to make it better, and then it made it glitch out crazy. So, you know, good times. But yeah, this camera definitely is a lot better than that last one. Thanks, Moon. I love you too. Yeah, exactly, Tree. I agree. What is your question, Nick? If I see it, I will try to answer it. Um, but yeah, hopefully we can get some folks requesting and have some actual conversations. Um, haven't really gotten very far tonight. Um, what's the camera? It is a fucking. Ooh, now you're gonna make me think. I don't remember. Logitech. Hold on, I can find it. Uh, can I find it? That's actually a good question. We'll hope that I can. C920. All right. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you are 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a god. Hi, Sean. How old are you? I
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm 25.
Okay. And do you believe in a god?
Yeah,
All right. Which one?
not any one in particular. I'm a deist.
Okay. What would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a god?
Any, I think any cosmological argument works, or harmony argument.
Do you want to? I guess I would need you to present the argument that you want to discuss.
We can talk about fine tuning, I guess.
Okay. Is there a specific formulation of fine tuning that you like?
I think particularly discoverability works.
Okay. What's the argument?
It's just basically the idea that there is fine tuning when it comes to the parameters that allows for science to be legible in this universe. And basically, the argument is that if such thing obtains, that would be more expected under a design hypothesis over a non-design hypothesis.
Okay.
Assuming non-design hypothesis is just indifferent towards value,
Okay.
which is
And
naturalism.
how do you know what justification do you have for saying that this is expected under a deistic God?
Yeah, I would say that there's enough plausible designers under the design hypothesis, and a deistic God would follow under these plausible designers because a deistic God can be a value selector.
No, that's not my question. Do you understand the question that I asked you?
The question is, how would this be expected under a deistic God? I just answered that.
You didn't.
What was my answer?
You said that a deistic God would be a value selector.
Right.
Yeah, that's not giving us reason why you think that it would be expected. That's saying that if it was expected, a deist God could select it. I'm asking why it would be expected, not how could a deistic God select it if it was expected.
I don't know what you're asking me. I'm just saying, well, what I want to say, it's less surprising, not expected.
Well, if
Because
it's not expected, then
expectations,
it's not evidence. So it has to be expected in order for it to be evidence. So
what's
why
the
would it
argument
be
for that?
expected under a deistic God?
What's the argument for that?
That's
Something
simply
can be
what
not
evidence
surprising.
is. That's simply what evidence
Ev-
is if it's
What's the
expected under
definition?
review. So if you have a
No,
hypothesis, you
that's
say, what does this hypothesis predict to be true about the world? And then you go out into the world and you see whether those predictions hold true. That's saying
if a
what is expected to be the case if this hypothesis is true. And that's what I'm asking you. What is the feature
so
of the deistic hypothesis that makes it expected
can
that
you
we would
can you
find
stop steamrolling?
discoverability?
Can you stop steamrolling? How I understand evidence is just some piece of information that raises the probability of a given proposition without its negation. Right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
how I
So that
understand.
is evidence, and in
So,
order for something to be able
okay,
to raise the probability, it has to be expected under the hypothesis and unexpected if the
why
hypothesis is false.
why does it have to be expected and not unsurprising?
Because it cannot raise the probability if it's not expected or
That's
unexpected under
restating
the
the
negation
claim.
of the hypothesis.
That's restating the claim.
Okay, so you just want to talk about probability then, I guess. Um, so the way that probability works is so you have the axiom of total probability, which is the probability of H plus the probability of not H is always going to equal 1, right?
Sorry,
The
say that again.
probability of H plus the probability of not H always has to equal 1. Do you understand that?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. And H being the hypothesis in question. And so what it means for something to be evidence for H or evidence for a hypothesis is that the probability of H given E is higher than the probability of H alone. So what that means is that the evidence makes H more likely than if the evidence isn't present. So what we're saying is that the evidence has to like I don't know how else to explain this. The evidence raises the probability, and the way that you know that the evidence raises the probability is again, you're saying that either H is true or not H is true. And then you go out and you look into the world for what you think would be the case if H was true and what you think would be the case if H was not true. And if you find the things that you expect to be the case if H is true, then that it raises the probability of H being true. If you find the things that you expect if H isn't true, then that raises the probability of H not being true. And anything that raises the probability of H lowers the probability of not H. Anything that raises the probability of not H lowers the probability of H. And because they always have to equal 1, it will be exactly correlative, right? The exact amount that certain evidence raises the probability of not H is the same amount it lowers the probability of H, and vice versa. So, in order for anything to count as evidence for a proposition, in order for any data to raise the probability of a proposition or a hypothesis, it has to be expected under that hypothesis and unexpected by its negation. If it's expected
So
both under the hypothesis and the negation of the hypothesis, then it can't raise the probability of either.
this is why I said unsurprising, because if it's also surprising given the hypothesis of the negation of the hypothesis, which in this case it would be evidence in favor of the
So
hypothesis,
what you need
not
to
the
do in order
negation.
for it to be evidence is to demonstrate that it's expected under the hypothesis. What is the feature of the deistic hypothesis that expects the discoverability, the intelligibility
So,
that you're
so,
trying to point to?
so I'm not using the term expected because that's a stronger claim. I'm saying it's unsurprising.
Okay, well then it's not evidence.
That's just what's in dispute. Like what? And
It's just
why
not
would you
evidence.
just that's just what's in why would okay, why is something that's not surprising for an entity to do not evidence in favor of a given hypothesis that they would do
because
it?
because that doesn't give us reason to think that that thing happening is unexpected under the negation of the hypothesis. It has to be unexpected under the negation of the hypothesis because it would have to lower that the negation's probability in order to raise the probability of the affirmation of the hypothesis. So if it
No,
doesn't
that's not
lower if
that's
it doesn't lower the probability of the hypothesis's negation, then it cannot raise the probability of the hypothesis because once again they have to equal 1 when added together. So there's
okay.
only so much probability space that can be taken up. If you want one side, either the hypothesis or its negation, to take up more of the probability space, the other has to take up less. So you have to be able to say that this thing is unexpected if the hypothesis wasn't true.
That's one way of doing it. Another way to assess the likelihood function is if let's just it doesn't even have to be most likely. That's why I'm not trying to say expected, right? I can say something like it only takes up 1% of the probability space. Okay. Now let's look at the negation of the hypothesis. I'm under the view that naturalism, given that it's indifferent towards value, which is it's an indifferent value thesis, is going to take up far less the probability space because it would be surprising to see things that are valuable under a value indifferent hypothesis. That's what I'm saying.
No,
And if it's surprising,
no,
given
you need to
given that,
demonstrate. No,
it's
it's
going
not
to
about whether
raise
it's
the
surprising
likelihood
or not.
function.
I'm done with this whole surprising nonsense. Either you want to discuss evidence or you don't. If you want to
That's
discuss
the language.
evidence,
That's the
if you
language
want
they
to
use
discuss
in Bayesian
evidence,
literature.
if you want to discuss evidence, then you need to discuss what's expected or unexpected under a given hypothesis. So why
Yes
would
or
it be
no? Do they
expected
not use
under
this?
deism to find the features of the universe that you're pointing to?
So you're just going to ignore you're going to
Okay,
ignore the
so
language.
clearly you don't want to actually engage in the topic. That's totally fine. I can just move on. That's not an issue. Um, so it's important that you actually engage. If you're not willing to actually have the conversation, if all you want to do is just um, restate the same claim over and over again and ignore what evidence actually is, then there's no reason to have the conversation. Doesn't know what evidence is. So I recommend that you look into what evidence is, my guy. I think that would help you a lot. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Yeah, that's fine. Apparently, Luca is not joining. Okay, clearly Luca's not joining. Um, oh, it's crazy how little people understand. Hi, Nick. How old are you?
18.
Do you believe in a God?
Yes.
Which one?
I would just say no specific God, just like a spiritual God.
Okay. Do you believe in like a mind that is the ultimate foundation to reality?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I would say that's like a simple way.
All right. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
If you don't mind me, just like backtracking, I was watching a lot before, and you said you were talking about this argument. I think you said you just came up with it today. It was like about I'm trying to remember it specifically.
Yeah, it just shows that God can't think, but if he exists, he would need to be able to think, therefore he doesn't exist.
So yeah, if you mind walking me through, like, you mind walking through that again, like.
Yeah, let me pull it up here.
I appreciate it.
Basically, just a being is thinking if and only if it's performing material inferences,
Yo,
which just means that it's like drawing conclusions from information.
yeah.
Material inferences require a change in mental states, meaning that if you only ever have one mental state, you can't go from, uh, you know, you can't go from being aware of a concept to drawing a conclusion from that concept, or from a group of
This is
concepts.
this is for like just life,
This is just
like
like the basic definition of what it means to be thinking. Um, so the basic, in order for anything to count as thinking, it must be performing material inferences. That's what thoughts are. And in order for anything to perform material inferences, its mental states have to change, because a material inference is a sequence of mental states. So
oh, okay, I see what
and
you're saying.
and because it requires a change in mental states, it then becomes important that a change in mental states requires time, because change is only in time. Change cannot exist without time. So that means that timeless beings cannot think. Um, and then if a being can't think, then it can't have propositional knowledge. And by propositional knowledge, I don't mean things like, if somebody throws a ball to you and you know where to put your hand to catch it, that's like instinctual knowledge. I'm not talking about that kind of knowledge. I'm talking about, like, well, the example I gave before is learning the Pythagorean theorem or something like that in school. Like, you have to be thinking in order to learn and to gain propositional knowledge. Um,
So if like obviously this is like a very like dumbed down thing, but you're saying God wouldn't like have the capability of knowing the Pythagorean theorem. That's what you're saying.
right,
That's
God,
obviously a very simplified
yeah.
thing.
Um, so it basically just boils down to, if God can't think, then he can't have knowledge. Like, having
Mm.
knowledge is relies on the ability to think, because you have to be able to, uh, you know,
Like
know the things, right? Knowing a thing
yeah.
is to understand its implications and its inferences, its entailments. Hold on one
Mm.
second. Then, I'm sorry. I realized an error in the. This guy has propositional knowledge. Um, oh, God is outside time. Okay, so if a being can't think, then it can't have propositional knowledge. If God exists, then God has propositional knowledge. Um, but since God is outside of time, he can't have propositional knowledge, so he doesn't exist.
Um, if you don't mind me asking, can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Um, would you if you believe if for instance you believe there was a God, would you believe that that God was like the creator of, let's say, the universe, the earth? Would you say that he's the creator, or would you just say that he's like a, I don't know, spiritual being? If, for instance, you believed in a God.
If it's Well, I just think, like, what the definition of a God is
Yeah.
the mind, or the personal ultimate foundation to reality. Like, if a thing isn't a personal ultimate foundation to reality, then I just have no idea why I would call it a God. So if I believed in something else that maybe, like, had a similar function in, like, a um played some kind of functional role in bringing the current state of existence into being, then even if such a thing exists, if it's not also an immaterial mind that, created and sustains the universe, then I just wouldn't call it a God.
So when you say immaterial, you mean we can't see God, we can't touch God, correct?
I don't think I used the word, or did I use the word immaterial? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, people typically, the definition of God is that he does not, he's disembodied.
So would you say that he lives beyond our realm of reality? If for instance he was.
If a God exists, then it would have to be contradictory, which is why I believe that no gods exist. Because if a God exists, it has to be outside time, and it has to also be able to take actions.
But what if, for instance, like, okay, so I understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But if there was a God theoretically out of the reality, is it not impossible for that God to be able to do things that we technically like we can't even comprehend in our reality. Like he's like and I'm gonna this isn't like he's in like almost like another dimension. Is how I look at it.
The problem is if you're trying to say that, like, oh, there's some fact about God that makes it such that we shouldn't expect the laws of logic to apply to God, well, then you've now described something that you can't even have a thought about, much less believe in. Because if the laws of logic don't apply to God, then the law of identity doesn't apply to God. And if the law of identity doesn't apply to God, then God doesn't have a fixed identity. He isn't a thing that isn't what it isn't, right? He's not the thing that he is and not the thing that he's not, because that's what identity would be. So if logic doesn't apply to him, then that doesn't apply to him. But if God isn't the thing that he is and he's not the things that he's not, then you literally couldn't even have a thought about him. You wouldn't even know what you were thinking about. Because in order to have a thought about something, in order for your thought to be intentionally directed at a thing, the thing that it's directed at has to be the thing that it is and has to not be things that it's not. But you're saying that law of logic doesn't apply to God, therefore you can't have a thought about God. And if you can't have a thought about God, then you can't have a belief about God. So in order for you to say that God is, outside of logic, the way that you're trying to say, you then also have to say that you don't believe in it.
If you could you like recap that if you don't mind. If you don't mind, I just got a little confused.
It sounds like what you're saying is that you don't want the stuff that I'm saying to apply to God because you're saying he's like on a different dimension or a different plane or something.
Yeah.
And he has like a different set of rules that he follows.
Well,
or maybe no rules. But
or something we can't understand.
Yeah, sure. So whatever the rules that God follows or that apply to God, we can't understand them. So we do understand the laws of logic. And so it sounds like
when you say logic, what do you mean by logic?
The rules of valid
logic
inference.
Of Earth? Say that again?
No, the rules of valid inference. It has nothing to do with Earth.
I'm not familiar with that. I apologize.
So logic is simply just logic is a description of the apparent structure of how things work in reality. Another way to think about it is it's basically like the rules that you have to follow in order for your thoughts to be coherent. So it just the rules of valid inference. It just means that, like, if you have a certain number of data points, logic is the thing that's going to tell you what conclusions you can and can't draw from the data points that you have.
Like don't put your hand in a fire type of thing.
Well, I'm just saying, like, logic would be something like, if fire is really hot, then it's dangerous to put your hand in it. Fire is really hot, therefore we can conclude that it's dangerous to put your hand in fire. Mm-hmm. Like, that would be an example of an inference.
Of logic. Like,
that is a valid logical inference, yes.
Yeah. So
what I'm saying is that if logic is one of the rules that we can understand that seems to tell us how reality works, and you're saying that we can't possibly understand the rules that apply to God, then you must be saying that logic, as we understand it, doesn't apply to God. But as soon as you say that logic, as we understand it, doesn't apply to God, you've basically created a scenario where it would be contradictory of you to say that you believe in God. You can't both say that logic doesn't apply to God and that you believe in God without contradicting yourself.
Well, what if I say I believe in a God that is out of, like, our realm of existence?
Yeah, you could say that you believe in a God that exists, like, outside the universe or something like that. But as soon as you say you believe in a God that exists outside of logic, that's when the problem starts. So if you want to reject the arguments that I'm giving, against God, you would have to stay within logic, because as soon as you try to...
if you don't mind me asking, could you give me an example of how, like, a God theoretically would be logical? Like, maybe, like, are you talking about, like, design? Like,
no, I'm just saying that God would be what he is, and he would not be what he's not. That's how logic would apply to God. And most theists, most people who believe in a God, would tell you that God can't do things that are logically impossible. Like, for example, if God is outside of logic, then a valid question would be, if you think that God's omnipotent, can God make a rock so heavy that he can't lift it? because then you have to say, if he's all powerful, that he can make a rock so heavy that he can't lift it, but then that means that he wouldn't be able to lift it, which would mean he's not all powerful. So then if you try to save it and say, well, no, God can't make a rock that's so heavy he can't lift it, then you're saying that God's not all powerful because there's a type of object he can't make. So the way that theists get around this apparent contradiction is just saying that God can't do logically impossible things. So if you say that God can do logically impossible things, then a whole bunch of contradictions are going to follow, including the one that says that you would not be able to coherently have a belief in this thing. So yeah, I mean, either you're saying that logic applies to God, in which case my arguments work, at least insofar as, you know, they're valid and sound. They would apply to God if they're correct. But if you want to say that the arguments don't apply to God because logic doesn't apply to God, then you have to accept that you can't possibly have a belief in that thing.
I think just after you were recapping that, I realized what I'm like, that like what I've, like the roadblock I've been hitting. So I believe that God is out of like our realm of time. Like I believe
that's fine. We're not talking about whether or not God is in time right now.
But if you just could you let me finish for?
Well, it's not relevant, and so I just want to stay on topic. I don't want to run off into a bunch of other stuff.
So I'm saying I believe that God has like, my image of God is God, like, and obviously me and you have completely different opinions, but and I'm not trying to convince you either. I'm just sharing my opinion. My opinion on God is that he has like he knows my life. He knows how my life is gonna go, or the past of my life.
Okay, this isn't like the topic here is supposed to be whether or not there's justification to believe in God. I don't need to hear what you believe about.
So I would believe that if you would think that if God seeing like every path of my life is unlogical, then yeah, I would say that God is.
I didn't say anything like that. Okay, well, if you're just fine saying that God is illogical, then again, you have to deal with the fact that you then are saying that this is a thing that you can't have a belief in. So you're saying that you believe in a thing that you can't believe in. That's, I mean, not only is God illogical, but you're illogical too. And as soon as you reject logic, then the conversation's over, Nick. I appreciate you. You seem like you're fairly good faith.
All right, have a good one, brother.
Yeah, take care. Ended up rejecting logic. Okay. If you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you are 18 plus and that you do have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Is Caitlin also not going to connect? Bueller? Oh, hi, Caitlin. How old are you?
I am 24. How old are you?
I'm 40.
Oh, okay. Well,
do you believe in a God?
Yes, I do. I believe in God and that he sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for our sins.
Oh, that answers my next question. What would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in God?
I would say the accounts of the prophets and history throughout the Bible.
Okay, I don't know what you're saying. So get me to God.
So I believe in God because of the Bible, the history of the Bible, reading it, and I believe in Jesus because of the accounts of his disciples, and yeah, just reading the Bible basically and having a relationship with him.
Okay, I mean, I've read a lot of the Bible. I don't have a relationship with God. I don't believe that God exists. What am I missing?
How much of the Bible have you read? And may I also ask, like, what do you feel was maybe holding you back?
I've read maybe like 60% of the Bible, somewhere around there. There's a lot of begats and whatever that I don't really have the patience for. And then also like a lot of the old laws I don't really care about. Anyway, what holds me back.
On that note, if I may, on the subject that you just said.
Well, I was trying to answer your question.
But I also wanted to ask, where did you start at in the Bible when you did your reading?
Oh, I don't remember the first thing in the Bible I read. I mean, I started reading stuff in the Bible pretty much as soon as I started reading, and that would have been like, 4 or 5 years old or something. So I have no idea what the first stuff I read in the Bible was. But you asked me what's holding me back. I assume you mean holding me back from believing in God. And the thing that's holding me back from believing in God is that God doesn't exist. And I don't have a reason to think that God exists. So that's why I'm here asking, what is a reason to believe in God? Because if somebody can provide me a reason to believe in God, then, well, I'll believe in God. So that's the question here. What is a reason to believe in God?
I can give you my reason, and then maybe like if maybe my reason is not good enough to believe, then maybe I can point out a few other good reasons that help me to believe that may help you to believe. I don't know. So basically, the reason I believe in God is because it was actually this past year. I grew up, and like you, I was
Okay,
around.
I don't want to hear a personal story. I want to hear like the argument that convinced you, or like a specific piece of evidence. Like I don't want to hear the story.
Okay, well, I had a shotgun to my head, and
Okay, I don't want to hear the story, Caitlin.
no, yeah, no, I literally encountered God in that moment, and
Okay, I believe that you
he helped
believe
me.
it. Why should I believe that that's what actually happened? How did you confirm?
Okay.
How did you confirm that it was actually God and not just like some kind of like stress hallucination?
Okay, so it seems like my reason for believing in God is not going to be enough. So,
Well, yeah, no. If you actually have a reason, then that would mean that you confirmed that you weren't having some kind of stress hallucination and you actually did encounter God. And so that's the reason that I'm interested in. Not the story. I'm interested in how you determined it actually was God.
because he was there, he stopped me from pulling the trigger.
No,
So,
that's what you think happened. That's what you believe happened. How did you confirm that your belief is accurate?
because he literally stopped me.
Okay, again,
Right.
that's just what you believe. How did you confirm the belief is accurate?
It's an encounter that I had. He was there.
Right,
I
that's
felt it.
Caitlin.
It's a very real thing.
Caitlin, if I told you that I had an encounter last night with a magical unicorn, and her name is Eunice, and she told me that she actually created the universe because one time she ate a really spicy hypotenuse and it gave her a little rumbly in her tumbly, and she had a particularly odious fart. But because of the hypotenuse, the fart had mathematical properties in it and logical properties in it, and so that's how our universe came into existence, and that's what grounds logic and math in our universe. So now I had a personal experience where Eunice showed herself to me and told me how the universe came into existence. Do you now believe that Eunice exists? I can't hear you if you're off the app, Caitlin.
I said no.
Right. And why not?
Because it's not logical.
Okay, but what if I really, 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 really strongly believe that I actually had an experience with Eunice? Does that make you believe in her?
No.
Okay, right, because what you would need is something more than just me saying I had an experience with her. You would need some kind of justification for how I determined that it actually was a magical universe farting unicorn that I had an experience with, right?
Right.
Right, and that's what I'm asking you for. I believe that you believe you had that experience. And I'm
Right.
also extremely glad, whatever the explanation of that experience is, I'm extremely glad that the result was you not, harming yourself. I'm extremely happy that situation resolved without you being harmed. That's fantastic, and I would not want to change anything about it because I want you to be safe, I want you to be happy, and I want you to be healthy. Those are all things that I think we all want for you and for everyone else here. Eunice certainly wants those things for you. But my concern is not whether you had an experience like that, and my concern isn't whether you believe that you know the cause of that experience or the origin of that experience. My concern is, how can we confirm that your belief about the origin of that experience is correct?
Well, I can only say like what I believe. So if you
Right,
believe
but
it, you believe it. If you don't, you don't.
right, but as we just found, someone saying what they believe isn't a reason for anyone, including that person, to believe in what they believe. So
Right.
if I have 10 people standing in front of me that all believe in 10 different religions, and all the 10 beliefs that they have contradict each other, so at most only one of them could be true, how would I go about determining which of them is true? Like if they all had the exact same kind of experience that you did, but for one of them, like one of them's you saying that, the Christian God showed up to you. One of them is saying that Norse gods showed up to them. One of them saying that Hindu gods showed up to them. And, all 10 people have different versions of different gods, different supernatural beliefs that are all contradictory. And at most, only one of them can be true. How do we determine which thing we should believe in based on those experiences?
Well, it's a really deep thing for me to even try to get into that because like I'm just little old me and
well, you
I
shouldn't
would
be
love
forming
to
a
be able
belief
to do
unless
that.
you can answer that question. You shouldn't be forming a belief based on your experience unless you've already answered that question and determined that you do have the correct interpretation of your experience. If you haven't done that work, then I'm sorry, but as far as I can tell, this experience actually isn't actually a reason to believe in anything.
Right. Well, I mean, I think I can go back into like that was a deeper realm to delve into what you
Mhm.
just got into. Like I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm only 24 years old, but I mean, we can talk about like the disciples of Jesus and them dying in the way that they died in the Bible.
How do you know how the
Um,
disciples died?
it's in the accounts of the New Testament.
And how do you know that the accounts in the New Testaments of how the disciples died are reliable?
Um, I mean, it was wrote by people
Mhm.
in the Bible, by other people that believed
Mhm.
and put it in the Bible.
Have people written down things that they believed before and still been wrong?
Let me think about that. Let me ponder on that.
Well, I'm sure that you can think of times that somebody has written down something that they believed that wasn't true, right? Like, for example, let's think of all the Muslims. You don't believe in the Muslim religion, Islam. How many Muslims have written things down about experiences that they had, spiritual experiences they had that confirm that Muhammad is the last true prophet of God? Well, every time a Muslim who wrote that down, they fully believed it, but you still think that the thing that they wrote down was wrong, even though they fully believed it, right?
Well, Muslims also believe in the Old Testament as well. They just don't believe that
Right, but I'm saying
Jesus.
if their position is that Jesus is not the Messiah and Muhammad is the last true prophet of God, you would disagree with them, right?
Not necessarily. It would
So you
be
think that
that's like that's a whole different argument between a Muslim and a believer of
okay, so
Jesus.
you're saying
Because
that
there's so many things.
so you're
that
saying
go
you don't
together.
believe that Jesus is the Messiah.
I do believe that he is the
Okay.
Messiah.
So if a Muslim writes down that they had an experience with God that confirmed to them that Jesus is not the Messiah and they truly believe it, would you then stop believing that Jesus is the Messiah because they wrote it down and they believed it?
Well, that would be different than the Bible. That would just be
Please
their
give
own
me a yes or no
physical.
answer, Caitlin.
I wouldn't believe them. No.
Okay, fantastic. So it sounds like we both agree that just because somebody writes something down and they believe it, that's not enough reason for us to believe what they wrote down, right?
Yeah, but I think
Okay,
it's
so
like
what is the reason why we should believe what's written in the New Testament?
I think it's also legitimate of the disciples dying for what they died because it was also wrote in the accounts of the Romans that killed them.
Yeah, which accounts?
So
Where can I read these?
there's actually it's an ancient text. You can look it up on Google.
Yep, which one?
It would be hold on, I have stuff wrote down.
Please don't say Josephus or Tacitus because neither of those ever talked about this.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Gotta find it. Sorry.
I'm guessing that you're going to say Josephus or Tacitus.
No, it's wrote from Pallet, the one that.
Oh, no,
crucified
that's
Jesus.
not real. Yeah, that's not real. That doesn't exist. That's just
But it's like somebody like me would believe in it because it's in the ancient text of
yeah,
where
but
he
it's
wrote
not
that.
though. That's what I'm saying is that it's not. Anybody who claims that they have things written by Pilate about Jesus is lying to you.
About him, why he was killed, and
Right. Pilate, we do not have any writings from Pilate about Jesus. That's not a thing that exists. So if someone is telling you that it does exist, they're lying to you or they're sincerely mistaken.
if you don't mind, just to like back that up, I want to make sure it's factual while we're talking. Can I look at that on Google real quick?
Yeah, I would recommend that you look up and you'll find scholars talking about this. The first one that I found here was Bart Ehrman. And of course, it's going to take forever to load. Okay, so Bart Ehrman wrote, I was recently asked in a comment, what kind of independent information do we have outside the Gospels for Pontius Pilate? The answer is not much. I told the commenter that I thought I had once written about the matter, and lo and behold, I was right. It was in my book, Did Jesus Exist? And whatever. So then he goes into a whole bunch of stuff. So Bart Ehrman, here's a quote. I have often pointed out that there is no Greek or Roman author from the 1st century who mentions Jesus. So this is from a very highly respected biblical scholar. And what he's telling us is that not only do we not have anything from Pilate, there are 0 examples of Greek or Roman authors, Greek or Roman people writing anything about Jesus in the 1st century. So from the year 0 to the year 99, not a single person wrote anything down about Jesus. You're off the app, Caitlin. Or no Greek or Roman wrote anything down about Jesus in that time period. So that would include Pontius Pilate.
Tacticus was a Roman, no?
Yep.
That's what I said.
Remember when I said don't bring up Jesus or Josephus or Tacitus? That's Tacitus. Yeah. Yep. That Tacitus never gives us any reason to believe any of the claims of the New Testament. Tacitus simply references that people believed in Jesus. And I agree. That at the time Tacitus was writing, people believed in Jesus. But that was not in the 1st century. And it was not anywhere near Jesus' timeline or lifetime. And it has nothing to do with reasons we should believe things. Again, all Tacitus wrote down was that there were people who believed in Jesus. Same with Josephus. All he ever wrote down was that there were people who believed in Jesus. Just saying that there are people who believe in Jesus doesn't give us a reason to believe in the divine claims of Jesus. So I'll ask you again, why should we believe that a God exists or that any of the claims in the New Testament are true?
And mine was my simple way of coming back at that was just the evidence, and that
What's the evidence?
God is reality based. Something cannot come from nothing. If the universe
nobody
had
says
a
something
beginning,
comes from
had to
nothing.
cause it.
Caitlin, nobody says something came from nothing, and we don't have any reason to think the universe had a beginning. All you're doing right now, Caitlin, is you're just spouting out like catchphrases. These are there's a guy on TikTok and YouTube named Forrest Valkai. He's an amazing scientist, a biologist, but he's got some really great quotes. And one of my favorite quotes from him, or one of my favorite things that he likes to say, is that this is an example of an everlasting thought stopper. Because what's happening here is I'm trying to have an honest conversation with you about what we do and don't have reason to believe. And instead of engaging with what I'm saying honestly, you're just bringing out these empty platitudes to stop the conversation. You're not actually giving me any substance. I ask you, what's the evidence? Well, the evidence is the evidence. Well, that doesn't get us anywhere, right? People wrote people wrote in the New Testament. Okay, well, why should we believe in the New Testament? Well, because of the evidence, right? Like, we're not getting anywhere. We're just spinning our wheels, Caitlin.
But it's like, the Bible is so evident in today's world. Like, there's so many things. Like,
I just want one piece of evidence that would give us reason to believe in God. You said it was because of
Joshua. They're still where they put the Ark of the Covenant. When they was walking across the Jordan, they had to put rocks on the people. You can look it up on Google. They have pictures of the rocks still standing today.
So even if there were like actual historical events presented in the Bible, because I believe that there are like real cities that are mentioned in the Bible, real people mentioned in the Bible, real events mentioned in the Bible. There are wars and battles that are mentioned in the Old Testament that seem to have actually happened. That doesn't give us any reason to believe in the supernatural claims. That's like you could find historical texts that mention battles that really happened that then claim that the god Mithras helped an army win a war. Well, just because somebody wrote down in a history book thousands of years ago that the god Mithras helped them win a war doesn't mean the god Mithras actually exists.
Right.
In the same way, just because a bunch of people wrote down in a book that Jesus was God and that he resurrected from the dead doesn't mean that any of those things are true. We talked about this before. You agreed with me that just because someone writes something down and believes in it doesn't mean that the thing that they wrote down is true. Yeah, Obelisk was pointing out in the YouTube chat, we found the city of Troy. Does that mean that the story that Homer wrote, the Odyssey, is true? That Odysseus was a real person just because the city actually existed? No. It doesn't mean that at all.
I just think it is like, it goes back to like, even like you were saying, it's like contradiction. Like, it's like the Bible is just like, for me, like, I want to understand more about why the atheists don't believe. And it like all comes back to like, if you could see God, if you could touch him right now, would you even believe that he existed? Because it just like, I feel like you wouldn't. You would be like, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm like, this ain't real. This can't be real. I just am having a hallucination.
Right. So your complaint is that you don't think atheists are gullible enough.
No, it's like,
that's what you just said. You just said, "Whoa, but what if you saw the evidence I've seen, you wouldn't believe?" Yeah, you're saying that you don't think that we're gullible enough. Well, I'm sorry, Caitlin, that I'm not a gullible person. I care about trying to make sure that my beliefs are true. So that's why I'm trying.
Go ahead.
That's why I'm trying to find out whether my beliefs are true. And a great way for me to put my beliefs to the test is to do these live streams and offer the opportunity for anyone to come up and disagree with me and tell me why I'm wrong. I've been doing this for months now, and so far no one has presented any arguments or evidence that would provide any justification to believe in God whatsoever. And unfortunately, you're on that list as well, Caitlin. You're a pleasant person to talk to, like I said before, which I really, really meant. I'm glad that you're still here, genuinely, regardless of anything else. I seriously mean that. But I just don't think that we're getting anywhere. Do you have anything else that we can discuss in terms of arguments or evidence for God, or I think I'll just move on.
Yeah. Well, can I say one more thing? And I just want to honestly know, like, so you believe, and I'm not sure what you believe in, but when we pass away, and that day comes to all of us, right? When we pass away, you believe that it's nothing after that. Nothing.
Right. It'll be just like it was before I was born, as far as I can tell.
I mean, I just think that, like, man, I hate that for you, because, like, for me,
okay.
I believe...
Well, that's fine. I would rather believe in uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie. So, but I appreciate the conversation, Caitlin. I'm going to move on to the next person, and I hope that you have a good one. All right. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hello, Guy. How old are you? Fair enough. High level up. How old are you?
I'm 36.
You sound like you've got your hand over the microphone.
In 1 second.
And I certainly can't hear you if you're off the app. Midwest Global, I certainly can't bring you up if you aren't even in the guest queue. And also, if you're begging in the comments, I'm not going to bring you up even if you are in the guest queue.
All right. That better?
Yes, it's much better. Thank you. You said you're 36?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe in a God?
Yes.
Which one?
I didn't until maybe about 2 years ago.
Which God do you believe in?
I don't believe in like a simple perceived God. I
didn't ask what you don't believe in. I asked which God you do believe
in. I believe that there is a God. I don't know which God there is.
Do you believe in like a mind that is the ultimate foundation to reality?
No, we're limited by our perception in every degree.
Well, that's what I mean when I say God. So it sounds like our disagreement is more just semantics than actual substance. So I'll just move on to the next person, but I hope you have a good one. Reminder, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you do actually believe in a God. Make sure that you are 18 plus and that you actually have some kind of argument or evidence that would give us rational justification to believe in God. So we'll bring up, looks like Carmen, and then Tony, and then, is that supposed to be Sterling maybe? Hi, Carmen, how old are you?
I'm 18.
Do you believe in a God?
Yes, the Christian God.
Okay, and what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Okay, so I have proof. It's like very physical. So you have to put like your palm of your hand on your eyeballs,
Okay.
and then it's the
Hi,
Hey,
Tony.
hello.
Hi, Tony.
How
How
you
old are
doing?
you?
I'm 26.
Okay. Do you believe in a God?
Yes, I'm a deist though. So are you only arguing religious people?
No. What would you
Okay.
say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
So my rational justification of believing in God is again like cause and effect. I guess this is more like an effect of the universe being here. There's got to be a cause, like whoever created it, whoever made it, somebody has to stabilize it, kind of.
Why should I think that the universe was created?
But if there's anything to believe that the universe was created, there's nothing has ever been created without a creator. Let's say like Earth
Do
was
you
here
understand?
before.
Do you remember the question that I just asked you?
Yeah.
What was the question I
Why
asked you?
you're asking why should you believe that the universe was created?
Right. And so your answer was, well, if it was created, it has to have a creator.
My
But you
bad.
understand
I'm
that
sorry.
doesn't
You're
answer my
correct.
question,
Yeah,
right?
you're correct. You're correct.
Okay.
But again, best thing to realize that it's created is here. Like how do you rationalize something being here without being created or having at least some sort of
So what you're saying is that it's not possible for something to
existence?
exist unless it was created? Is that what you're saying?
Therefore, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to be very clear. Your position is
Yeah,
that
I'm sorry. That's kind of my position on this. How can it be here
okay,
if it
hold
wasn't
on.
created?
Yeah, so let me put here. So it sounds like your position is it is not possible for something to exist unless it was created. Is that what am I understanding you correctly?
That's one of the positions I'll take here.
Okay, fantastic. Does God exist?
Yes.
Okay, cool. God exists. So then God was created. But as I said before, if we're talking about a God, the only thing that I would consider, fitting the definition of a God would be a personal ultimate foundation to reality. But obviously, if God was created, then God is not ultimate. So it sounds like we're just not talking about the same thing anymore.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't position God as a person or
I didn't
ideal
say
of
that you
a
did.
living being.
I didn't say that you did. You're
So
saying
again, like
you're saying is it's not possible for something to exist unless it was created. But you also agree that God is something that exists. Maybe God is something that exists, right? And we know for all some things that exist, they must have been created. So that means that God was created. And so then the thing that created God must exist. So it must have also been created. And so now what you've created is an infinite regress of creators. And so obviously none of them is going to be ultimate because they're all going to have a creator of their own. And so then none of these can qualify for gods. And then, like I said, we're not actually talking about gods anymore. So in order for us to actually still be able to talk about a god, it would have to be ultimate. In order for the thing that you believe in to be ultimate, you would have to reject this thing that you said.
So do you say that one thing cannot be like can be reliant on the other? Like one thing cannot be in correspondence to the other. So one thing cannot be created while another thing created. Like the idea of positivity would not exist without the idea of negativity, right?
That has
The
nothing to
idea
do
of
with what
cold
I'm
would
saying
not
here.
exist without the idea of hot, right?
That has nothing to do with what I'm saying here.
It does.
Nope, it doesn't connect at all. What I'm saying is that the definition of God that we're operating with here is an ultimate foundation. In order for something to be an ultimate foundation, it can't have a creator and it can't have anything that it relies on for its existence. But the situation that you've made now, based on your logic, your principle that you put forward, the thing that you're calling God must have been created and therefore isn't a god.
Exactly, but
right. So the thing. Okay, so you know what? We'll expand this out a little bit. We'll expand this out a little bit. So if rule 3, if God was created, then he is not ultimate. If God exists, then he is ultimate. So then the final conclusion here is that God does not exist. So if you want to hold to your claim here that it's not possible for something to exist unless it was created, then the only logical conclusion we can draw is that God does not exist. So you need to so here are your options, Tony. You can either accept that God does not exist and I will welcome you into atheism with open arms, or you have to reject that it's not possible for something to exist unless it was created.
If I may speak without getting interrupted, because I'm stumbling over my words, constantly trying to speak quickly. Again, why are you implicating things that are inside of this world to something that created this? That's
I'm
like
just
me
using
saying
logic,
that,
Tony.
real,
I'm
real
just
quick,
using
real
logic.
quick, real
No,
quick.
because
Can
Tony,
I-
you're
if
not
I may
addressing the
finish?
problem here. So if you want to
That
reject
is the
logic,
problem.
if you want to reject logic, then there's no
That is
conversation to be
not.
had.
That's not rejecting logic. That's
Yes.
like,
So okay, so if
again,
you're not rejecting logic, then I need you to directly respond to this argument that's on the screen.
if God, okay, who created God? Again, God is basically the person, is basically the being that created
Do
us.
you
That's the
agree
only
that
thing
it's not possible for
I can
something?
idealize between
Tony,
that. It's again,
Tony,
do you become an art? Real
Tony,
quick, if
Tony,
I never make
you're
art,
not
am I
engaging.
artist?
If you can't engage with
If
the
I
actual
may
conversation here, then I'm
speak
just going
for
to
a
move on to the
second,
next.
If I may speak for a second,
You can speak as long as you're actually staying on topic. The problem is, Tony,
I'm
that you're
staying
not
on
staying
topic.
on topic. So what I
Because
need you to do,
you're
is
spitballing
the topic
a lot
here.
of things at me,
No, the topic
and I
here.
can't speak.
The topic here is the argument on the screen. So respond to the argument. If you start talking about anything other than directly responding to the argument,
That's
then
exactly
I'm just
what
going to
I'm
move on
trying
to
to
the next
direct.
person.
You just want me to agree with atheism. Man.
No,
Again,
I
I'm
don't.
just not gonna do that.
I'm not asking you to agree with atheism. I'm asking you to respond directly.
Then
to
can
the
I
argument
finish
on
at
the
least
screen.
one statement? Can I at least finish one statement?
As long
Can
as
I at
it
least-
actually,
can I at least
as
answer
long
it?
as it's actually addressing the argument
Okay.
on the screen.
So again, God being something that created this universe, do you imply that everybody that creates art or anything, they have to go to the said rules of their art or game or whatever they've created? No, they don't. They outside of that
Okay,
reality,
Tony.
right?
So again, you're not engaging. So the definition that we
You're-
gave for God at the beginning of this conversation is that it
Because
is
you're trying
a
to
mind with an
presuppose.
ultimate foundation to reality.
You're trying to presuppose that God is something of this reality. That has
No,
to
I didn't say
abide by
anything
the
like
rules
that,
of
Tony.
This reality.
I didn't say anything like that. What I'm
That's a
saying is that by
presupposition that you gave.
definition, God is
Look what
the
you wrote.
personal ultimate foundation to reality. If you're talking about something that is not the ultimate foundation to reality, then we're just not talking about the same thing. So I'm going to ask you very clearly, and I need you to give me a direct answer. Is it your position that God is the ultimate foundation to reality? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So if God is the ultimate foundation to reality, then your view that it's not possible for something to exist unless it was created, that demonstrates that the God you are talking about doesn't exist. So now you need to directly respond to this. Don't ask me other questions. Don't talk about anything else. If you ask me a question that isn't directly responding to what's on the screen, or you start talking about something that isn't directly responding to what's on the screen, I'm just going to move to the next person. If you can respond to what's on the screen, I will happily let you talk.
The reason why I say again, what links the two is, again, if I create something that makes me God, that's what made him God.
So
Again, as soon
obviously
as I
you're not
created.
willing to engage, Tony. So I am
That's
just going to
exactly
move on.
what you just asked.
Nope, it's not what I
You
asked.
just
you.
asked me to engage with this.
Nope, I asked you to engage with what's on the screen, and we already agreed that if God exists, then God is ultimate. And now you're talking about, well, I'm a God if I make a painting. Well, we're obviously not talking about the same thing anymore. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Sterling. How old are you?
I'm 18.
Do you believe in a God?
Okay, so I'm more like, I don't believe in like a Christian God or
Did you hear the question that I asked
like-
you?
do I believe in a God?
Was the
Okay,
word
so-
Christian in my question?
No, but
Okay,
listen,
so then
I
just
believe-
answer the question, please.
yeah, I do believe in a God.
Okay, cool. Which
Right.
God do you believe in?
I don't believe in a specific one exactly. So
Sterling, I don't have the patience for this. I'm going to ask you one more time, and if you can't give me a direct, informative, unambiguous answer, I'm just going to move to the next person. Which God do you believe in?
yeah, so like I said, I don't believe in a specific God.
Okay. Are you talking about me, Tree? Tree, you talking smack on me? You better not be, because if you are, I'll let you. Oh my God, that's the wishy-washy believers. All right, I'll allow that as well, Tree. I'll allow that as well. Mysterious Galaxy, you might be my new favorite comedian. Comedy gold. Imagine claiming that Darth Dawkins cooked me. Hilarious. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support. Saintly, Elena, Dan Blackroyd, JR, Thistle Honey, AJ, Poopman Jones, as always, Bertram, as always, Angry Neeson, Eddie, La Paquette, Sci-Tech Nature, Bear, Sober. Thank you, everybody, so much for the support. Sincerely. As I was saying earlier, the support that you guys have given have made it so that I can, buy a new camera. I can buy new monitors. I'm using it to literally further my education. I'm doing things like, another superhero shirt. Yes, my favorite superhero, Jason Voorhees. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. Genuinely, it goes a long way, and it is helping me do more for the stream. And I just can't thank you enough for that. So if you're in the guest queue, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. High strength. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay. And I assume that you're a Christian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
I would go off of nothing can't be created without God, man.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that.
Oh, I can speak on God's eternal.
I don't need you to tell me what you believe. I need you to give me the reasons to believe it.
What that guy was saying before, I believe it because God is eternal. Nothing can't be created
but that's
without
just the claim.
a creator.
That's just the claim?
That's not a claim. That's reality, bro.
Okay. Why should I agree with you that that's reality?
Because you wouldn't be existing. Nothing is here without God.
Again, that's just the claim again. What's the evidence or argument for that claim?
Eternal. Hold on. Listen. I have a platform, brother. God, how?
All right. I don't have patience for that. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus, and then you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Eternal. Wow, what an amazing argument. Yeah, I agree, Thistle Honey. That was just about to be a preaching session, and we are not here for Sunday school. We're not here for preaching. Well, have a good one, Rebecca. I appreciate you being here as long as you were. Yeah, exactly, Lupine. This isn't about me, and it's not about the guest specifically. This is about whether or not there's reason to believe in a God. It's pretty simple. So once again, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you actually have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, LSB.
Hello?
How old are you?
18, sorry. Do you remember me last time I talked to you?
I don't.
It was a long time ago.
Okay, what God do you believe in?
Muslim, so Allah.
Okay, and what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would give us rational justification to believe in God?
So could I just come back on what you put on the screen before where you said the 4 points that prove that God is fiction?
No.
Where you said that, no?
No, I'm just asking you for your argument or evidence that would give us reason to believe in God.
I don't have one. I just wanted to point out something.
Okay, well, I will. Maybe we can talk another time if you have an argument at that time.
All right.
Hi, Fresh. How old are you?
I'm 44. How you doing today, man?
Just fine. Do you believe in a God?
Yes. You seem to take issue with agnosticism, though, so I don't know if this is going to be the best debate because I don't really, subscribe to, I was raised Catholic, don't really subscribe to it. Christian, Buddhism, I've been,
I'm just asking if you
Muslim,
believe in a God, and if so, which one?
Oh no, I don't subscribe to any of them. That's the thing. Like I think there's a lot more at play that
Do you
See, but
believe
here's
that
the
a God
thing.
exists? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. What is the God that you believe exists?
So that's where we run into issues as
Just
humans. is we
fucking
think we
tell
know
me,
everything.
dude. Just
No,
fucking
no,
tell
no.
me. Genuinely, I don't have the patience for this. Either you're going to tell me what God you believe in, or I'm just going to drop you. It's simple.
Because you're like, if you don't subscribe to a religion, I can't
No,
debate you.
I didn't ask you for a
No,
religion.
that's literally what's happening.
No,
here.
I
You're
didn't
like,
ask you for a
I
religion.
refuse to
I'm just
believe in a
asking you to
higher power
describe
unless
the
I
God.
can
Just
define it and pin it down.
Just tell me the
based
God.
on, like,
Tell me what you believe in. If you can't do that, then
I
obviously you're not
literally
prepared to have a
told you,
debate.
dude. Okay, see, this is the problem with debating you atheists,
Here's a
man. It's like
debate.
anytime you bring up
Yeah, because you don't actually have a position, and like, it's literally not possible to have a debate if you don't take a position. It's just not possible. There's no way to do it. There's no debate. If you don't have a position, there's nothing to debate. That's it. I didn't ever say that anybody had to believe in a religion. I've talked to I've talked to 2 deists, at least 1 theist tonight. And if we scroll back previously, there's tons of other deists and theists that I've talked to. I have no problem talking to people who don't believe in a God associated with a religion. That's not an issue at all. Yeah, I'm not... Just Phil, bro. Yeah. I'm not concerned with you believing in a religious God. If that was one of the requirements, I would say that. I would say make sure you believe in whatever, the Christian God or whatever. So, oh, I moved my garbage. Okay. So I currently don't have anybody requesting because I ran through people too fast. All right. So thank you again, everybody, for the support. Mikey, Lupine, JP, Christian. I sincerely appreciate it. So yeah, if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in God, feel free to come up. I'd be happy to have the conversation. I tried to stay live for maybe a little bit later than normal tonight, because I had, had to stop in the middle because my camera was glitching out. But yeah, hoping that we can actually have some conversations here. I don't know if I've really gotten to have much of a good conversation tonight. Yeah, we just had the guy who wanted to talk about evolution but refused to stop strawmanning it. We had some Gish Galloper. We had a guy who just wanted to discuss meta. Guy who didn't know what a contradiction was. A guy after that who didn't know what evidence was. Nick, who ended up rejecting logic. Caitlin was the best conversation that we had by far. And then what? Tony couldn't track to save his life. Strength in Christ couldn't give an argument to save his life. Yeah. But with 130 plus people in here, I would think that there'd be at least one theist who had the balls to defend their position. Was there an argument that I don't run a lot? Oh, the one from Causation I think is kind of funny. If God exists, then he caused the universe to come into existence. If he caused the universe to come into existence, then he caused space and time to come into existence. If he caused space and time to come into existence, then he's outside space and time. If he's outside space and time and all causes are inside space and time, then he didn't cause the universe to come into existence. And all causes are inside space and time, therefore God doesn't exist. I don't run that one very much, but this premise 4 trips people up because it has a conjunction in the antecedent, and I think that really fucks with people. People struggle with conditionals, it seems like, and making it more complicated by having a conjunction in the antecedent of a conditional makes it pretty rough. But yeah, it doesn't sound like it doesn't. It seems like there's nobody that actually wants to have the conversation, which is kind of unfortunate. You know what we'll do? I think I'm just gonna reset quick and see if we can have. Do I host my notes anywhere? Do you mean like my debate notes or my like my uh It depends on what you mean by notes, Mr. C. Oh, speaking of which, let's toss this up here. Oh shit, I moved that to a weird spot. Let's put it like here maybe, or over there, maybe right there. I don't fucking know. Yeah, I don't know what you mean, Mr. C, by hosting my notes. If you join my Discord, I talk about arguments in there sometimes. If you join on TikTok as a super fan and join my Discord, then you could get access to all my my arguments and stuff. And then but if you're asking about like if I have my my notes about like who I've talked to, I don't really have a reason to put those out anywhere. Those are just for my information pretty much, so I know if I recognize somebody's name, I can see what I had to say about the last time I talked to them. But yeah, if you want to if you want access to like my arguments and stuff, then I would say yeah, join as a super fan and you'll get access to that. Yeah, if you join as a super fan. Oh, okay. Yeah, and then so join as a super fan and then hop into the Discord, and I will add you to the members only area, and yeah, I just will post like a PDF of my arguments and stuff. It's nothing amazing, it's nothing great, it's nothing crazy, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's just the stuff that I have. I don't know. Do I just call it for the night, or should I reset and try to go a little bit longer, see if I can have another conversation? I don't know. I am constantly updating my notes. I haven't. Keep going. All right. Yeah, marathon stream. Well, I do have work in the morning, so I'm not going to be up too late. But yeah, I will go ahead and give it a reset here and see if we can maybe have a couple more conversations before I call it for the night. YouTube isn't going away, but the TikTok stream I will reset here. We're going to go ahead and do one of these. What's happening? I want to do that. And then we'll go in here and there. Okay. And we're back. We are back. So, yeah, we'll wait for people to come back in, populate into the TikTok stream, and see if we can have some debates. Okay. Yeah, so I've got the guest queue open. If you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence for God, I'd be happy to chat. Thanks, AJ. Welcome back as well. If you guys are able to tap the screen, share it out, that kind of stuff, it helps a lot. Oh, thanks, Angry Neeson and Greenball. Appreciate it. And Bradley Cooper, thank you so much. Poopman Jones, under your name it says high-level member, and I agree. You're much appreciated. Hey, yeehaw. That's awesome. Well, hi, Haley. As far as I know, you still haven't come across me, but maybe if you buy me dinner first. Dinner and a movie? I don't think that's too much to ask for before you come across me. But yeah, just looking for folks who actually want to have the conversation. If you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in God, I'd be happy to chat. The guest queue is open, and bring up the first person that requests, I suppose. I know, Lupine, I'm hilarious. I'll be here all week, aka tonight and tomorrow. Good evening. Yeah, sorry, I don't have anything too exciting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about good arguments, but you certainly can steal my arguments. Depends on the people who come up and what they actually want to talk about. What have we talked about tonight so far? Some guy who wanted to straw man evolution. Dude just wanted to discuss meta. Another guy that didn't know what a contradiction was. Yeah, good times. Good times. I think my favorite argument against God is the one that starts with a mind. God has a mind. Minds either have changing mental states or only one unchanging mental state. Change only occurs in time. God exists outside of time, so God has only one unchanging mental state. Acting upon one's will changes one's mental states, so God cannot act upon his will. If God can't act on his will, he can't create the universe. If God exists, he did create the universe, therefore God doesn't exist. So I think that this is probably like my personal favorite argument. I just don't like running the same argument all the time, so I'll switch it up and run other ones. You could also use this argument to conclude that God isn't an agent. If you take this God can't act on his will, from there you could just give the premise that an agent is a being that has a will and can act on it, and then God isn't an agent. I think that's how I originally saw this argument, but I think that it's so easy to just get to God doesn't exist. Is this my strongest argument? I don't know. It's my favorite. What I would love is a strong argument for God. Unfortunately, I don't think such a thing exists. But hey, maybe somebody will come up and show me that I'm wrong. So if you think that's you, if you're 18 plus and you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in God, feel free to come up. Thanks for the support, everybody. That's awesome. I haven't even gotten to have a convo yet. At least not on the reset. But yeah, hopefully somebody will come up. What else do we have? Been thinking a lot about fine-tuning. That's been a big one on my mind recently. Lupine can tell you we've been going back and forth on some fine-tuning arguments for quite a while. We got a pretty nice, tight, concise argument that fine-tuning isn't evidence for God, and I don't think I've had an opportunity to run it yet, but I do also have an argument that fine-tuning is evidence against God. But earlier, I thought somebody was gonna run the fine-tuning argument. I was all excited, but then they did not. Oh. Thank you so much, Greenball. That's fucking awesome. Thank you. And also Sunday Warship. Bradley Cooper, Poopman Jones, Lupine, Angry Neeson, Poopman Jones. Thank you guys. Yeah, I'm hoping that somebody actually comes up to actually have some kind of argument. Yeah, apparently the theists are scared tonight. The theists are scared tonight. Nobody actually wants to have a debate. I appreciate the likes and shares, everybody. That helps us, stay in the algorithm. Hopefully people will come in and actually present some kind of argument. I mean, we could talk about it, about fine-tuning. I think in terms of whether fine-tuning is evidence for God, I don't think so. If God exists, God would be able to create life with any possible set of physical constants. In order to join, you click the little icon with the pink and blue people next to the text box, and that'll bring up a thing that allows you to click request. But if God exists, he can create life with any possible set of physical constants. If that's the case, then theism wouldn't make any predictions about the physical constants, about them being fine-tuned. If theism doesn't make predictions about fine-tuning, then finding fine-tuning wouldn't be evidence for theism. Therefore, if God exists, then fine-tuning isn't evidence for theism. All right, so if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus, and then you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God.
Hello?
Hi, Booch. How old are you?
I'm 18.
When were you born?
I was born October 31st, 2007.
All right, and do you believe in a God?
Yes, sir. I believe in Jesus Christ.
Okay, what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would give us rational justification to believe in a God?
Well, the evidence is because I said so.
Okay, well, hey, fair enough. So if anybody actually wants to have a debate, that'd be fine. That'd be nice. Troll, that's fair. This has been a little bit rough tonight. We don't really have people that want to actually have conversations, that want to actually have the debate. But maybe that'll change. Maybe somebody will actually have something for me. Yeah, if you are 18 plus and you actually have some kind of argument or evidence for God, feel free to come up. I'd be happy to chat. But yeah, as I was kind of saying before, I don't think that fine-tuning can be evidence for God, just because, you know, if God could make, if God's all powerful, God can make life with any set of natural constants, which means that theism wouldn't predict what constants we would find in conjunction with life. And if theism doesn't predict what the constants would be, then no set of constants can be evidence for theism. And then from there, well, it's technically a separate argument. If theism is true, especially omnitheism, you know, with an omnipotent, you know, omnibenevolent, omniscient God, then that would predict that God would be able to create life with any set of physical constants. If God can do that, then there are more universes with life without fine-tuning than universes with life with fine-tuning. So then that means that theism predicts that it's more likely to find a universe where life exists without fine-tuning than life existing with fine-tuning. And if that's the case, then observing life existing with fine-tuning is actually unexpected on theism and therefore evidence against theism. But we'll see if we can have a conversation here. Hi, Phil. How old are you? Well, I can't hear you if you're off the app. Yeah, well, you'll need to come back on the app, Phil, if you want to have the conversation. No? Bueller? Nothing? I would love to have the debate, Phil. All right, fair enough. If you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that will provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Johan. How old are you?
13.
All right, fair enough. Go away. Don't come back. Hi, Ty. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Do you believe in a God?
I do believe in a God, yes.
Okay. Which God do you believe in?
You know, I was raised in a Christian church, so that would be who I would like to say is God. I don't have the definite answer here for you, but I'd like to have a conversation and see what it is that you think, caused all this lovely world to come about.
I don't know why I should think it would be caused. Is there a reason I should think it was caused?
Or what caused it? How can you explain life itself?
Is there a reason I should think that the universe was caused?
It
or
had
that
to
life was
have been
caused?
for us to be here.
Why is that?
Well, it had to have been.
Why is that?
Because me and you are having a conversation, right? So
Well,
we're
no,
people.
that's just the claim. Your claim is that in order for us to be here having this conversation, then the universe must have been created. But why is that? I don't see the connection.
Well, because we're humans, right? Or whatever we are.
Yep. So I don't need
life,
you to
right?
I don't need you to repeat the claim that we need a creator. I need you to go from something that
Because
we can agree on, like you and I exist, to we must have a creator. What's the logic?
Well, I don't believe in the scientific explanation behind
I'm not
all
asking
that.
you what you don't believe in. I'm asking for the justification for your position that if we exist, there must be a God.
Well, because it's pretty the question you're asking just doesn't. I guess you're not understanding what I'm saying. So
no, I'm understanding what you're saying, Ty. You're just not actually responding to my question. Can you tell me what question I'm asking you so I know you understand?
Sure. So you won't let me finish. The universe itself was created.
So what's the question that I'm asking you right now?
Nowhere.
Or are you not paying attention?
No. You're asking me what. Well, not necessarily, because you kind of cut me off. I'm trying to finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I'm trying to keep you on task here because you keep running off in different directions. I'm trying to keep you on.
Okay, so
on topic.
What's your question? Let's start out. What's your question?
Yep, your claim is that we wouldn't be able to exist unless there was a God. What's the justification for that claim?
Well, I believe that a God created the universe.
I know what you believe. I'm asking, why do you believe that? What is the reason to believe that it's true that a God exists?
Because I don't believe that a universe just pops up out of nowhere.
Okay,
That's
so
hard for me to believe.
This is just an argument from incredulity. You're saying, I don't know the answer, therefore I'm going to insert the answer that I want it to be. There's no argument there. It's just logical fallacy and not worth the time.
So what's your...
Just go ahead and move on to somebody that can hopefully actually have a conversation. So if you're in the guest queue, make sure that you're 18 plus, and then you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Embers. How old are you?
51.
Do you believe in a God?
I believe that...
That's a yes or no question, so I need a yes or no answer. Do you believe in a God?
Yes.
Cool. What God do you believe in?
I believe that I have chosen to believe in a God that speaks to me.
I'll ask you one more time because I don't have the patience for this. What God do you believe in? If you can't give me a direct answer, then you're clearly not capable of having a serious conversation.
I believe in AI.
Okay. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Sterling. How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay. Do you believe in a God?
I sure do.
Okay. Which God do you believe in?
I believe in the devil. The devil is the god of this earth. I've met her once. One of the 9 times I died.
Okay. And do you believe that there's like a personal ultimate foundation to reality?
I believe that there are many, many realities. That
wasn't the question that I asked you. Do you understand the question that I asked you?
No. Can you explain it?
Do you believe that there is like some kind of mind, and maybe an immaterial mind, that is the, ultimate explanation for why everything else exists?
No, but
okay.
I can tell.
Fair enough. Then we're just not talking about the same thing when we talk about a God. So, and I'm not interested in a semantic debate. So I would just ask, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining the guest queue, make sure that you are 18 plus and that you actually believe in a God in the sense of a personal ultimate foundation to reality, and make sure that you actually have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification for that God belief.
No, not that one. Hello.
Okay, well, that sounds like a child, so we'll wait until, see if we can actually get an adult to talk to. That would be nice. Sounds like we've got a bunch of people spouting off in the comments. If you want to actually have some kind of, if you have an argument, a debate, Tommy, to join, you click the It's really hard to tell that girl OB, and I've had too many children join tonight. Yep, you can join. You just click the little icon with the pink and blue people, and that'll bring up a box, and you click request. Pretty simple. Hey, Jaden. See, people can figure it out. Make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence for God, though. That's important. Hi, Bowie. How old are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Your
you.
voice. No, oh, fuck.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Okay. I go live like 5 days a week usually. Hi,
Hello,
Tommy.
how are you?
Hi.
Hey.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay. Do you believe in a God?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't know what to tell you, folks. Trying to have a debate. Why don't you go to my TikTok page and watch... Is it my most recent video? I don't know if it's my most recent video. Hold on. We're going to find out. Go here. No, it's not my most recent video. No, it's not even my second most recent video. Okay, so my third most recent video, that is the one where I talk about my deconversion from Christianity. Hello?
Hello,
How old are you?
I'm 68.
Do you believe in a God?
I believe in Jesus Christ.
And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
I was a drug addict.
Well, I don't want to hear your personal story, Jimmy. I don't want to hear your personal story. There are people in every religion.
Jesus.
There are people in every religion who have claims about, personal experiences that they've had that demonstrate their religion is true. I can't believe all of them. So I need some kind of way.
Jesus.
I believe that you believe that, but how did you determine that that was what your experience actually was?
My life changed for 50 years.
That has nothing to do with it. Do you understand the question that I'm asking you?
Yes, I asked Jesus to change me, and he changed me.
Okay, so what was the question that I asked you?
The question you're wanting to ask me is
no, not the question that you think
I
I want to ask you. What was the question that I asked you?
You asked me who Jesus was.
Nope, I didn't ask you that at all. Are you just not paying attention?
You're a terrible host. Do you understand that? You're not giving people a chance to say anything.
That's because you're going off topic. If you weren't going off topic,
No,
I
I'm
wouldn't
not.
interrupt. So the only thing that I'm
topic is
interested in...
Jesus Christ.
No, the topic is not Jesus Christ. The topic
Yes,
is...
it is.
No, the topic
You
is not...
asked me who God is.
No, I
Jesus
asked you what
Christ
God
is
you
God.
believe in. You told me which God. And then
And
the topic from there
Jesus
is
Christ,
some kind of
because
argument or
he is
evidence that
God.
would provide rational justification to believe in a God. That's what I'm
There
interested
is
in.
no other God.
What is the rational justification to believe that God exists?
When I spoke to him, he answered.
So I understand that's a claim. How did you determine that it was actually God answering you?
Because when I asked him, he changed everything in my life.
And that's also consistent with it not being God. That's also consistent with it being a hallucination or some other explanation that, resulted in you thinking you could change your life, and a placebo effect resulting in you changing your life. So what I need from you is an explanation of how you determined that it actually was God that you were interacting with.
So you can't do that because of the fact that when
So
you
you're not
interact
willing to
with
provide any
somebody-
actual arguments or evidence? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, I gave you the evidence. You just don't want to accept.
I haven't heard any evidence yet, Jimmy.
The evidence is my life changed.
Yeah, and people, I'm aware of a lot of people in a lot of religions whose lives changed because of that religion. That has nothing to do
There
with
is
whether or
no
not their
other
religious beliefs
religion.
true. So what is the
There is only
reason?
one God.
What is the reason
so
to actually think that your claim is true?
the reason is because I spoke to him in the answer.
I know that you believe that. I'm asking, why should anyone else believe that? In fact, why should you even believe that?
Well, because when you talk to a supreme person that has created all of heaven.
Okay,
and
I know
all
that
of
that's what you
those-
believe happened, Jimmy. Do you understand what I'm actually asking you for, or are you
Okay,
just
you
not
said you were an
capable?
atheist, and you proved to me there is no God.
Sure.
If you say that God came out of a mud hole or something, who made the mud hole?
I'm not saying
If you say
anything
it was
about
a
God
Big
coming. Do you
Bang
want me to
theory-
give you an argument or not, Jimmy?
Yeah, if you
Okay,
say it's a Big
fantastic.
Bang
So I'll present
theory,
you with
then who
I'll
made the
present
Big
you with an
Bang?
argument, and you let me know which portion of the argument you disagree with. So here goes the
Okay.
argument. No, premise 1,
Yep.
God has a mind. Premise 2, minds have either changing mental states or only one unchanging mental state. Premise 3, change only occurs in time. Premise 4, God exists outside of time. So our first conclusion would be that God has only one unchanging mental state. Premise 5, acting upon one's will changes one's mental states. Therefore, conclusion 2, God cannot act upon his will. Premise 6, if God cannot act upon his will, he cannot create the universe. Premise 7, if God exists, then he did create the universe. Therefore, our final and ultimate conclusion here is that God does not exist.
Okay, well then look at your hand and say, you think about the millions of functions.
So I
in
just
your
gave you an
hand.
argument, Jimmy. I need you to respond to
I'm
the
giving
argument.
you one too. I'm asking
No,
you a
respond to the
question.
argument.
No, I'm asking you a
Okay,
question.
if you're not able to respond to the argument, then I'm just going to move on.
Okay, I'm trying to respond to the
Okay,
argument.
so which premise do you disagree with?
I disagree with the fact that you said God can't do anything, that he doesn't have an intelligent mind, because God is
No,
the
so
intelligent
which
mind
premise?
of all things.
So you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Which of those do you disagree with?
I disagree with all of them, actually.
So you don't think that God has a mind?
I think that God is supreme in all things.
Does God have a mind?
Not a mind like your mind or my
I didn't
mind.
ask if it was like
He-
yours or mine. I asked you if God has a mind.
He has a mind, yes.
Okay, so then you don't disagree with one, so you just lied to me when you just said you disagree with all of them. So now that we
I do
established
dis-
that you don't disagree with
I
all of
disagree
them,
with the way you established them. Because you did not establish them correctly. A
what would be the
person can
correct
have
way
a
to establish
mind-
these?
A person can
What would
have
be
a
the
mind
correct
and
way
not
to
agree
establish
with
these?
you. We establish it by my mind and your mind do not agree.
That's not a way of establishing an
You
argument.
do
Okay.
not have to have the same mind.
All right, Jimmy. I think it's pretty clear that continuing the conversation would be punching down. So I'm just
Because
going to move
all
on to
you
the next
want-
person. So I appreciate you trying, my guy. Don't think you had the boots for this hike, though. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. No, we'll see. Hi, Lucas. How old are you?
God Israel.
I don't know why children want to come up here. Please stay away, children. God Israel. I mean, that it did sound. It was what it sounded like. It doesn't seem that Charles is going to connect. Bueller. All right, fair enough. Charles not connecting. Hi, Pito. How old are you?
Yeah, 36.
Do you believe in a God?
I do.
Which God do you believe in?
It's none of your business. That's my own personal business.
All right, fair enough. Script, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm in my 40s.
Okay, do you believe in a God?
Yep. Hey, let's get that argument back up. That was pretty good.
Which God do you believe in?
Yeah, Christian God of the Bible. Let's get that argument going.
And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe?
Yeah, hey, run that argument again, man. That was a good one. You had like a few premises. I'd like to go through it. That was really interesting.
So you don't have any argument or evidence?
I really enjoyed that argument. I want you to try to run it on me.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more time, and either you're going to present
Why
an
are you
argument or
afraid to
evidence,
run
or
that
I'm gonna move
argument on me, Ogre?
So do you have any argument or evidence?
Ogre, run the argument, bro. Let me get that bull.
Fair enough. So if you're in the guest queue, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Minnie. How old are you?
30.
Do you believe in a God?
No, not really. Not
Okay.
not really.
Sure. Well, I'm just talking to folks who do.
Okay.
Have a good one. Okay. Well, hasn't this just been a joy? All right. So I'm hoping that I can have at least one debate with an actual adult. Hi, Angel, how old are you?
26.
Do you believe in a God?
Yo, nigga. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Make sure that you're 18 plus and actually have some kind of argument or evidence. Hi, Ice Cream, how old are you?
42.
Do you believe in a God?
I do.
Okay. Which God do you believe in?
I don't believe there's one particular God. I think there is just a universal God for everyone. I don't think there's a religion you act under God under. I think it's just one.
I don't know what that means. Do you believe that there is a God that created and sustains the universe?
Yes. But not under one religion.
Okay, I didn't say anything about a religion. I never said
No,
anything
no, no.
about a religion.
I didn't say you did. I
Okay,
just
so
said
then
that
why I don't know why you brought it up if it wasn't a part of the
because
conversation.
you asked me a question of how I feel, and I'm telling you.
No, I didn't ask you
I
how you
believe there-
feel. I'm just asking you to tell me
And
what
I asked
version
you,
of God.
yes.
I'm just asking you to tell me what version of God you believe in.
I'm a universal God.
I don't know what that means. I need an unambiguous answer
One
that I
that
can actually
believes in
understand.
that one that takes care of any and everybody.
Do you believe
no
in a
matter.
personal ultimate foundation to reality?
Say it again.
Do you believe in a personal ultimate foundation to reality?
A personal ultimate foundation.
Right, like a
What
mind
is
that is the explanation for why everything else exists?
A mind for why everything else exists. Possibly.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking to have debates, and we can't have a debate if you don't even know what you believe in, so I'll move on to the next person.
I know.
Hope you have a good one. Hi,
You
number
don't
4, how old
know
are you?
any of this shit's true. Like,
Okay. So please make sure that you're 18 plus, and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Oh, I guess we could get a crash out. That could be fun. Hi, Constantine. Clarify for me again what God you believe in?
Yeah, Christian God. So God is fiction. What's the argument, bro?
So, as I said, in order to come up, you need to be 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence for God.
Yeah, you got to claim on the prompt.
What's
God
the
is
best
fiction. What's the argument?
or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Wait a minute. Your prompt says God is fiction. Provide the argument, bro.
Okay, so you don't want to give an argument or evidence?
Okay, why do you have the prompt that says God is fiction and then you want to reverse the burden? Give me an argument.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll give you one more opportunity if you just want to agree that you don't have an argument or evidence.
Give me an argument.
Okay,
It
fair
says
enough.
God is fiction.
Yeah.
Substantiate the claim.
Yep, and I said all over and over and over and over and over and over again that in order to come up, you need to be 18
God is
plus and
fiction.
have some kind of argument or
Substantiate
evidence.
the claim, Ogre.
So you don't want to
Substantiate the
provide an
claim.
argument or evidence? I'll give you
Don't
one last
run, Ogre,
opportunity.
you coward.
Okay.
God is fiction.
Right.
Give me an argument.
Right. And so when I set the
If
terms
God
for
is
the
fiction,
live,
give me an
all right,
argument, Ogre.
fair enough. I told you it was going to be an immediate crash out, and that's what we got. Exactly what I knew. That's the only thing that guy can do is crash the fuck out. Yeah. As I say over and over and over again, the whole idea is that you got to be 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence for God. If you don't fit both of those criteria, then don't request to join. I've defended my position over and over and over again. All right. So we'll try to see if we can actually have a debate here. Again, if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining the guest queue, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. How old are you? All right, fair enough.
Boy, you a liar. Got
All
it.
right, fair enough. It's just children.
Hey, I'm not gonna troll. I'm 22.
Oh, you sounded like a child, and it sounded like you were trolling, so I clicked too fast. Come back, Christ believer. Come back. Come back. Request back up, please. It sounded immediately like you were trolling, so that's my bad. I was too quick on the trigger finger there. I'll own that.
All right. I promise I am. I sound like a child, but I'm not. I swear.
Yeah, well, and it also sounded like you were about to start spewing off a bunch of bullshit. So I apologize for being a little bit too heavy-handed there. That's my bad.
You're good. You're good.
I assume that you're Christian.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
So, and before I ask, is anyone can like share my screen to show the evidence? Because
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just try to explain it. So there's actual historical evidence about Jesus Christ's resurrection, because you know the story about Jesus dying on the cross for our sins, resurrecting and all that? Well, there's actual Roman historians that actually claimed and wrote down that there was a man that died and appeared to his followers, and also miracles and etc. So there's actually evidence about Jesus, and not only that, the nails that Jesus was nailed on was also found and discovered, and they discovered his tombstone, and there's a lot of like clear evidence of Jesus. So
Okay, well, none of
if you
that
do
is
your research on it, you can find it too.
Yeah, none of that's true. But we can only go with one claim at a time. So what's the first one you'd like to start with?
I wish I like knew it top of my head because I have it in my notes. Otherwise I would look at it. So
what's the first claim that you want to discuss?
Oh, I'm trying to think of his name. I forgot his name. It's Josephus. I can't think of the name.
So Josephus, the most Josephus ever said is just that there were people who believed in Jesus. But I'm not contesting whether or not people believed in Jesus. I agree that in Josephus's lifetime, that when he was writing, people believed in Jesus. Like I don't have any, I don't have any qualms with that. I'm not saying that's not true. I accept that. But that has nothing to do with whether or not Jesus actually existed. You said that there's evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. What's the evidence that he rose from the dead?
The historical evidence of the Roman historians that claimed that this happened.
No. We have Josephus and Tacitus claiming. First off, they're not. Josephus is a Jewish historian. Tacitus, I believe, is Roman. But either way, all either of them really ever says is they just reference people who believe in Jesus. They don't say anything about the stories about Jesus being true. They just say people believe in it. But just reports that people believe in something is not the same as evidence that the thing they believe in is true. What I'm interested in is the evidence that the thing those people believed in was true. Obviously, neither Josephus nor Tacitus can give us that. So what is the evidence that Jesus actually rose from the dead?
I wish I have more of it in my notes. It's just going to kick me out if I look at it. I wish I could look. I mean, I could say this. If it's not about Jesus, what about God? Because I'm assuming you're a guy that believes in evolution.
I do think that evolution is true, yeah.
Okay, so I need to ask you something real quick because I don't know a lot about evolution. I've been doing my research on it, just trying to understand like what the basics of like what the belief of evolution is. So, and I was doing my research a couple days ago about like before like I did my research on the Big Bang, how like there was like a big explosion or whatever thing that kind of caused space to grow and everything. And if that is that just to make sure, is that correct on what I just said about evolution?
No.
I don't know the full context of it. I was doing my own research.
No, what you're trying to talk about is the Big Bang, which was not an explosion and also has nothing to do with evolution.
Okay, never mind. Okay, so because this is my question. So, like, I believe that, like, there is a God out there, right? Because if there wasn't a God, if we're not counting about Earth and the planets, all that, like, before all that was created, what do you think could have created space? What do you think could have created everything or caused space and the Big Bang to happen? I believe there got to be a creator that has to cause that in the first place. Why? And I don't exactly have the proof, because, like, I just started learning about it, but, like, based on, like, if something was to be created,
Yeah,
like,
but
I don't
why
think
should we
something can be
think that
created
it
out
was
of nothing.
created?
Because that's a good question. So I think it was created because of God's purpose of what He was planning to
Right.
create, the whole entire
Right.
galaxy,
Hold on,
universe,
no,
and all the other stuff.
believer. My issue here is
Yeah.
that you're saying that God exists because the universe was created, and we know that the universe was created because God exists. So really, all you're saying right now is God exists because God exists. But I can say, I can just say that God doesn't exist because the universe wasn't created, and the way we know the universe wasn't created is because God doesn't exist. And now I've given the exact same argument that you've given, just in reverse. Both of them are really bad arguments, and no one should ever believe anything based on either of those really bad arguments. So
I'm not okay. I'm not
So-
trying to say that exact reason why God exists. I'm just thinking because, like, if something had to be created, like,
no, but why should we think that it had to be created? This is the claim that you've made a bunch of times, and that's the claim I'm asking you to demonstrate or to justify.
that I cannot think. Like,
Okay, so hold on. So if what you're saying is we should believe in God because the universe was created, but I don't actually have a reason to think that the universe was created, well, then there's no reason to believe in God.
I guess you could say that. And like
It's
I
not
said,
just that I
don't know
could say
much
that,
about-
it's that that's true.
And here's the thing, I don't have the basis, like, I mean, not the basis, I wish I could look at my notes, but I could say there's another evidence that God is real, and it's the Holy Spirit. And the reason why I know that, because I have the Holy Spirit, and I got
Again,
it from
that's
God.
just, yeah, that's just begging
No,
the
I
question.
I have a testimony on it that explains.
I don't
the
want
situation
testimony.
too.
Please do not give me testimony. It's a waste of
and
time.
then that's another experience I had with God.
Right, but you,
personally from Him.
what I'd be interested in is how you determined that your experience actually was with God.
Because of the whole circumstance that happened. If I explain the whole story, it will make it clear.
No. I don't need you to tell me the story. I need you to tell me how after the story you confirmed that it was actually an experience with God and not some other explanation.
Okay, because I'm explain because at the time I was going through a lot of depression, anxiety.
No, I
and
don't. I
didn't
don't
know-
want the story. I don't want the
Okay,
story.
well,
What I want, I
because-
want you to hold on, believer. Hold on. I want you to start after the story is done, after the experience is done. Then, what steps did you take from there to determine that your experience actually was with God?
Because of my faith, where everything.
No. Tell me the steps that you took that allowed you to confirm the
I just
experience
told
was
you
with
the
God.
steps was the faith with God.
Okay, so what you're saying is the way that you determined it was God was just by believing that it was God. That's not
It wasn't
a
just-
method for determination.
If I could explain the story. and
No, I don't
explain
want the story.
everything
I
with
need
the
to know how
context
you
of
determined
God.
it was actually God. That's all I'm
Because
interested
of
in.
the visions that I literally had from.
Yeah, but
that I
if those
got from
visions
God.
came from something other than God, then we shouldn't trust those visions.
But it
So,
wasn't. especially from
believer,
the feeling that I was having at that moment.
believer. Just okay. Here's what we both need.
I'm calm.
Here's what we both need to do right now. Let's take a
Okay.
deep breath in and a deep breath out.
Okay.
Okay. We just need
I'm
to
good, don't worry.
relax a little bit here. I'm asking you to please stay on topic here. If you want to talk about this story, the
Yeah.
story itself is completely irrelevant. I don't need to hear the story because that has no bearing on anything. What's important here is the methodology that you used to determine that there was actually an experience with God and not something that just seemed like an experience with God. Because I'm gonna explain why I think this is important. Because I have people come up here who believe all kinds of different things, and I interact with people in my real life who believe all kinds of different things. So let's imagine I have 5 people standing in front of me, you and 4 other people who believe in other religions, right? Your religion can't be true if any of their religions are true, and their religion can't be true. None of their religions can be true if your religion is true. So at most, only one at most can be true. So what I need to do, if I've got 5 people, you and 4 other people all telling me similar stories, all saying that those stories confirm that their religious beliefs are true, I need some way of determining if any of them actually are accurate, if any of their interpretations of their experiences are actually true. So that's what I'm asking from you. Just like I would ask from anybody else who says a personal experience led them to a God belief, I need to know how you determined that your interpretation of the experience is correct, and that when other people interpret their personal experiences to draw conclusions that you don't agree with, how you know they're wrong.
Okay, so before I answer the question, I just want to make sure I'm hearing it correctly so I don't, like, mess up or anything. Okay, I just want to make sure. You're pretty much asking me, like, don't explain the story, don't explain that. Just explain how, after the fact that the story happened, right, that this determined that this experience was from God. Just
Right.
want to make sure that's what you're explaining.
Yep, and how you would be able to tell that other people who claim to have experiences with different gods are wrong.
Okay, I can explain it. The reason why is because the exact situation that I can explain the story. So the exact thing that experiment that I can't. Sorry, I keep stuttering. Let me slow down. The exact experience that I had in that moment was from God because of how the Holy Spirit was dwelling in me at that time, and all the experience I was having from that situation as well.
Yeah, that's just assuming that it was God. You're saying you know that it was God because you assumed it was God, and then when you after you assumed it was God, it seemed like it was God. That's not giving me a
Yes,
reason
but
because hold on. Because if
okay,
someone says that they had an experience where they had an experience with the Muslim God who told them that Muhammad is the last true prophet and that Jesus is not the Messiah. If
yeah,
they had the exact same experience and I asked them, well, how did you determine that it really was the Muslim God and that Muhammad really is the last true prophet and that Jesus really isn't the Messiah? And if they said, well, I had the spirit of Muhammad with me and I could really, because of that, that helped me tell when God came down that it was really the Muslim God and that the things that he told me were true. Well,
yeah.
you wouldn't accept that and I wouldn't accept that. But the problem is that neither of us should accept that from your story either. We need to be consistent here.
Which I understand where you're coming from. I will say this whole situation, I can't fully prove it, like, for, like, where you can show a picture of anything, because it's not, like, it's hard to, like, how to explain it? I can't exactly fully prove it. I can only explain it in my own best words.
Yeah,
So,
I just need some kind of methodology, some kind of tool that I can use that'll help me determine which religious beliefs I should believe in or like which let me be more specific. I need some
yeah,
kind of tool that will allow me to determine which interpretations of spiritual experiences are reliable and which interpretations of spiritual experiences are not reliable.
okay, let me try to explain it.
So what I
So
need so here's what you
okay,
should be doing. You should be saying
yeah,
when someone has a spiritual experience,
yeah,
these are the steps that they can take to make sure that they're interpreting it correctly.
okay. I can explain it, because the steps I took is from apologize for my family, because I was doing a lot of bad stuff. And it was the visions that I clearly had was showing the family I was hurting and the family that was caring for me. And not only that, the stuff that I was feeling in my body at the time, which the only way I could describe was from a feeling of God and money. This was at a church at the same time
Right,
we were
but you
worshiping.
think that it's God because you already believe in that, right? Like when I
Yes,
believed in
and
God and I had those experiences, I attributed them to the God that I believed in too. But I've had those same experiences not believing in God, and I never feel any reason to think that a God was involved in them. Right? You're just saying that like this is just confirmation bias. You're saying because I already believe in God, when I have an experience that fits into my, God belief, I'm just going to attribute it to God even though I don't have a reason to. But what I need is the actual reason.
I just explained.
You
The
didn't explain
reason
though, believer. You
that
didn't.
no, I'm explaining the stuff that I experienced at that moment was clear indication from God. The Holy
Yeah,
Spirit
I
that
understand
dwelt
that you
in me.
believe that, but even if
Yeah,
let's imagine instead that there's someone else who had almost an identical experience that you had, but they
yeah,
believe it was from a Hindu god.
yeah.
How would you be able to determine if their exact same experience, they had a vision, it showed them all the ways they were going wrong in life, and then when they acknowledged what they saw in the vision and they went out and they made reparations for what they had done, they apologized to the people they hurt, and they tried to fix all the wrongs that they had done, and it completely
Yeah.
turned their life around and everything got better? How would you determine if that vision was actually from the Hindu gods or if there was some other explanation?
I wouldn't be able to because the
Okay,
personal
so then
experience
what
I
you're
couldn't
saying is
explain.
that you don't have a way to determine that your experience was from the Christian God.
I can't necessarily prove it,
I'm not
but I
asking for
can
proof.
explain.
I'm asking you for any
Determine.
evidence that raises the probability that it was actually from the God you believe in. But here's my point here, believer. If
Okay.
you had some method to tell that your experience actually was from the God you think it was, we could use that same method on other people having experiences that they're drawing different conclusions from and they would be able to see that they're wrong. So what I need is for you to imagine the scenario I just gave you, a
Okay.
Hindu person having the exact same kind of experience that you had, only they
Yeah.
attribute it to the Hindu gods. How do you determine whether or not it was actually from the Hindu gods. If you don't have a way to do that, then that's admitting that you don't have a way to confirm that your experience was from the Christian God.
The only way I could say I can determine is because everything after that changed.
Yeah,
But
and
as
I'm
far as
saying that's the
life-
same for the person with the Hindu experience.
I
Their
know,
life
like I
changed too.
Yeah, like I said, I can't necessarily prove it. I can only explain it. So there's no
Right,
other way
so-
I can, for one, show it.
So how
besides
would
showing
you-
How I changed.
So let's imagine that Hindu person and you are in front of me right now, both telling me identical stories, but you attribute yours to the Christian God and they attribute theirs to the Hindu gods. How can I tell, as a neutral observer who only cares what's true? I'm not trying to stay atheist. I just want to know what's true. Let's imagine that I believe that one of you definitely is right. Either the Hindu gods exist or the Christian God exists. One of you is definitely right. How do I determine which one it is? And if there's no way for me to determine that, then there's also no way for you to determine that your experience was from the Christian God.
Y'all just gotta pick one word for another, but that's really it. 'cause
Right.
It's
So you just have
based
to
off one
pretend that
word.
you have a reason.
It's not pretend, but
Yes, that is what you're doing. You're pretending that you have a reason to believe that it's the Christian God. That's what's happening. You're saying that you don't actually have a way to tell that it was the Christian God, but you're going to believe it anyway. That's irrational.
Okay, I'm trying to finally explain this. So, like, how to explain it? I can't full on, like, I already said I can't already prove it.
Yep, and
I
I'm
can
not
only go off of
asking you to prove anything, believer. I'm not
I know
asking you to
you're
prove
not.
anything.
I'll say this. It's very hard to, like, how to explain it, to convert or to tell people this and for them to fully believe, because sometimes it can sound like a fairy tale. So people, like, you pretty much build with religion, you build off faith and you try to understand if this is true or not based off faith and depending on how you like work with that faith will determine if it goes well for you or not.
The problem, though, is that you're saying that this is based on faith, but the issue is, like, okay, well, let me ask you this question. Do you think that faith is a reliable pathway to truth?
Yes.
Okay.
When it comes down to Christianity, yes.
Okay. Well, no. Just faith in general. Is having faith in something enough justification to be reasonably confident that the thing you have faith in is true?
Yes.
No matter what the belief is. No matter what the belief is.
It depends on the belief.
No, because then you're saying that there's some other qualification besides faith. So we're not talking about belief. We're not talking about which belief it is. Is faith just faith on its own, no matter what the belief is?
Oh, just faith on its own? No.
Okay.
Just faith on its own? No.
Okay, fantastic. So then then you need to tell me the relevant difference between why faith is justifying enough to justify a belief in Christianity, but not enough to justify a belief in anything else.
Because of the historical evidence that points out.
Okay, so now what you're saying is that we should actually not believe based on faith. We should believe on evidence. You're saying the way that we know which beliefs are true and which beliefs are false is evidence. Because now what you're saying is no, believer. If
Can I explain real quick? If we're talking about faith on something that has no historical evidence or nothing that could be true, like you can
there's historical evidence for the Hindu gods and there's historical evidence for the Quran, right? Like, there's historical evidence, just like there is. There's the same historical evidence for every other religion as there is for Christianity. Christianity is not in a privileged position. I know that Christians like to pretend that there's more evidence for their religion than there is for others, but that's simply not true. No, I didn't say that you said that. I said a lot of Christians say that. I didn't say that you said it, because you didn't.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I know that the common refrain among a lot of Christians is that Christianity has more evidence for it, more historical evidence than other religions. That's simply not true. The other religions also have evidence for them. Like, if you talk to a Muslim, which I've talked to a lot of Muslims on here, they will tell you that they also have lots and lots of historical reasons that they think support their religion. So, but again, here's the issue, believer. When you said the way that you know that your experience really came from God was because of faith, and then we determined that you don't actually think faith is a good enough reason to believe something and that we need evidence to supplement the faith. So it sounds like, unless it's okay to just believe anything based on faith, no matter what the belief is, then we shouldn't be relying on faith to tell us what's true. If we can't rely on faith, and the way that we tell which beliefs are true is evidence, then we should be looking for evidence. Is there any evidence or any good philosophical argument that would give us reason to believe God exists?
If I could get to my notes, I will. I'll see if I can, like, if I can stay on this live stream and look at my notes, because it would help me be able to explain better, and I can hear your reason. It might kick me out. I'm just trying to make sure. So let's see.
Yeah, you're gonna teacup.
Okay, never mind. It won't let me go notes without. Yeah, it's gonna kick me out, so I can't. That's the only thing, because I have my notes on my phone. I don't have it on like paper. I didn't write it down. I didn't do any of that because I thought I would be able to like share screen or do something like that might be able to show. So that's the only problem. If I had that, because I got that information, especially when it comes down to Jesus Christ, like the historical evidence, based off of actual verified websites that are actually claimed that are like real.
The problem is, like, I've done a lot of looking into this, and as far as I can tell, the best, quote unquote, best case out there for the resurrection is Gary Habermas's minimal facts case.
Okay.
But he's been pushing that case for 50 years now, and it just came out recently that he's been lying about it the whole time. Because his whole claim this entire time is that he has all these minimal facts that he says, as long as these things are true, then we can tell that, you know, Jesus really resurrected and, you know, be justified in believing it. And we have good evidential warrant for it. And then it turned out that like a bunch of the stuff he was saying that there was like scholarly consensus on, he was just making it up. So that's as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, that's the best evidential case for Jesus's resurrection. And it turned out the whole thing was bullshit. It was just made up.
I'll tell you, I have more information on it, though, 'cause I just can't look it up. Like, the only thing I can really explain personally with my personal experience with God is that exact situation that happened with me.
Yeah, but as we discussed, personal experience doesn't get us anywhere. So, you know what?
Which I understand. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Well, so and it's worse than that, though, because if personal experience is the only way to confirm that God exists, then God has a reason to give us all personal experiences. And if God is good, then he does the things that he has a reason to do, which means that if God is good, he gives everyone a personal experience. But not everyone has had a personal experience with the Christian God. So that means that either God doesn't exist or he doesn't do what he has reason to do, which means that he's not all good. And if he's not all good, then he's not the Christian God.
But you also gotta remember, for people that have most of those personal experience, it really depends on like if they're having faith with Jesus or not. Because if
God is all powerful, he knows exactly the kind of experience each person needs to have in order to come to believe in him. So if you're saying that like, oh, the person just didn't do something right, no, that's not a justifiable answer here, because if God is all powerful, all knowing, and all good, which the Christian God is supposed to be, then he would know exactly what experience, like for me, he would know the exact experience he would need to give me in order for me to start believing, and he hasn't given me that experience. So again, if God
experience, have you asked anything? Okay.
I grew up Christian, my dude. I grew up Christian, and the only reason that I left is because I realized it wasn't true. I didn't stop. It wasn't because I didn't want to believe in it. I wanted to believe in it. I know that there are a lot of people out there who say that atheists only stop believing because of like some kind of trauma, or because they don't like people in the church, or because they don't want to go to church anymore, or because they want to commit sins or whatever. But I promise you, none of those things had anything to do with me stopping believing. I told myself, because I started having some doubts, and I told myself, well, I'm having these doubts, but I know that Jesus is really God. I know Jesus is the truth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself permission to independently search for truth without assuming what the conclusion is. And that way, when that independent search for truth brings me back to Jesus, I won't have to have any doubts anymore. But as soon as I gave myself that permission in my head to seek truth without assuming the outcome, I had to admit that I didn't have a reason to believe in Jesus.
Okay, can I ask you a question real quick? What did
you just did?
No, sorry. I just wanted to say, what did the Christian lifestyle look like for you? Like when you grew up Christian, right? What did that look like for you when you were trying to like give your life to Christ? How did that look? Were you repenting? Were you giving your life to Christ? Were you trying to like live how God wants to live? Like how did that look?
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to church pretty much every Sunday, as long as my parents didn't have something else going on that prevented us from going. My parents were divorced, so I went half weekends to my dad's church and half the weekends to my mom's church. So I grew up in two different Christian churches. I took the Bible very seriously. I spent an enormous amount of time praying. The reason why I'm an atheist is because I took my Christianity so seriously. For a little while when I was a teenager, I thought that I was going to end up going into the clergy. I thought I was going to, after high school, I thought I would become a minister or something, or do something in the church. So I took it very, very seriously. But because I took it so seriously, when I started having some doubts, when I had information presented to me that I hadn't encountered before, and it gave me some questions, I thought, okay, what's the best way to get rid of these questions and come back to my confident belief that Jesus really is God and the Christian religion is true? And the best thing I could come up with to prove it to myself, to give myself really good reason, was to say, I will seek truth without assuming what the answer is going to be. And then when the answer ends up being Jesus, I'll be that much more confident that Jesus is God. Unfortunately, if you actually search for truth without assuming what the answer is going to be, that search will never, ever lead you to Jesus because Jesus isn't real.
Okay. And you have your reasons, and I have my reasons. Like, I'll say this. A lot of people do, like, try to figure out how to explain this real quick without, like, stuttering or anything. Like, if God is not answering your prayers, I can't answer that for you because I'm not God. I don't know why he's not choosing to. But personally, like, with my prayers, God has answered my prayers, especially whenever I do dare to fall into sin.
Okay, so what you're saying
Like
is
I
that
said, I can't,
is,
like, fully...
do you think that God is all good?
Yes.
Okay. And so does that mean that God always does the best thing that he can do morally?
Majority of the time, yes.
No.
I
You
truly
said
believe
you said God is all good, right?
When I meant majority, I meant yes.
Okay.
I mean,
So
like, just wrong.
is there any instance where God ever does the evil thing? Or
God
fails
doesn't do no evil.
Or is there ever an instance where God fails to do the most moral thing?
No.
Okay. So God always does the most moral thing.
Yes.
And God has the ability to answer prayers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know that because he answered my prayers multiple times, especially when I felt down.
Fantastic. And so, does God answer the prayers of children who are starving to death?
If they pray, yes.
Okay. So, and does God answer the prayers of parents whose children are dying?
Yes.
Okay.
And you gotta also know
So what you're
they're
saying is,
praying
so what you're saying is, every single time a child has gotten sick with a terminal illness and their parents have prayed for them to survive and to get better, God has answered the prayer and the child has gotten better?
Depends if they pray for the specific thing, but yes. If God, let's say, because there is...
So you're telling me you honestly believe that there are no cases in history where a child was sick, the child and or their parents prayed sincerely to God for healing. There's never been a time that that's happened where the child wasn't healed?
Yes.
I mean, you
Because,
got to know,
like,
believer, that this is ridiculous.
I
You're
can
telling
explain.
me, you're telling me
Can
that
I-
there's
can I
never
explain-
been a
wait, can I
single,
explain
you're
real-
telling me that there's never been a single child of a Christian family who's died of cancer?
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to you at this. Oh, and he just left. I think he knew how ridiculous that was of a thing to say, and so he had to leave. Unfortunate. Yeah, I agree, Awari. He left because he knew that was stupid. Well, hey, thanks everybody for the support. Jesus Christ, Alan, Cake Against the Machine, Soul Shaver. I don't know what this says. Spelled with a silent 7. Oh, I like that. That's fun. Jaden the Skeptic. Sharon Gen X Hippie. Oh, I got there eventually. Greenball. Sunday Warship. Bradley Cooper. Poopman Jones. Lupine. Angry Decent. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for the support. 30,000 likes, all the shares. I appreciate it so much. It is like an hour past when I normally end the stream, so I am going to call it. As I say at the end of all my streams, remember, folks, tomorrow is not guaranteed. You don't know how many more opportunities you're going to have to let all your family and friends know how much you care about them, to give them hugs, all that kind of stuff.